International, we're now going to magically bring you to the dunes on the edge of the North Sea in Tisted, Denmark, for our friends Walter and Marie Trout. Hey, how are you? Yep.
We're very serene.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. You're sitting there on the majestic North Sea, and you do look very serene. Tell us how things are in Denmark.
Gosh, we miss touring. We miss live music, but this is a nice break at the same time. It is beautiful here, and lots of nature around us. And if you're in a global pandemic, having lots of nature around you is actually really reassuring, you know? So that's a nice thing. And we're together with everybody in our family. Gotten to catch up on each other, you know, since
sometimes a little too much of each other.
Hey.
That's family, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, you know, we're in a little fishing village here with a population of about 590. So we're pretty secluded and safe from getting a virus, you know, and we're on the right out our window here is a national park. And if you got to be sequestered for a while, this ain't bad, you know.
No,
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So what has life been like in Denmark in terms of transition? Walter, you've been taking lessons, as have the kids, and you've gotten to play a little bit of music.
Yeah, you know, I certainly play the guitar a lot these days. I play it actually as far as sitting around and, you know, practicing. I'm doing that more than I have since I was a teenager, really. But I've done a couple of socially distanced concerts with a great Danish band called Blindstone, kind of as their guest. And we've done some shows in these theaters that hold maybe 700, but they let 150 people in. And the band and all of us, we all get tested first. And it's been a lot of fun, but I really, really miss playing with my band. That's where my heart is my band, you know, that's my second family. That's our second family.
Here's another one off the new album. This song is by kind of an unsung blues man whose name was Floyd Lee. Now, Floyd Lee is still alive. He lives in New York City, but he's very, very old. He can't play anymore. And when he got the message that we had recorded his song, he was really excited. And I was happy to do it because it's a killer. This song is called Red Sun. Looking out over the sea, sitting on top of the mountain, angels talking to me. Ain't no rain for days now, clouds all passing by. Ain't no rain for days now, river all run dry, run dry. There's a north wind blowing, red sun going down, cold north wind blowing, the answer still ain't been found. I got an angel feather in my pocket, gonna take me fly away. Got an angel feather my pocket. Gonna take me to my grave. Take me to my grave. Take me to my grave. Here we go. It's gonna take me to my grave. Lord, Lord, Lord. Bring it down now, fellas. Well, we've had a ball playing for you tonight. You've been an awesome crowd. But there is one thing I have to say, and it's my responsibility now to do this every night. And that is, my life was saved by a stranger who signed on the dotted line to be an organ donor. You don't know whose life you could save. You have 8 life-saving organs in you, 8 of them. That means should you choose to recycle, you can literally save 8 people's lives. Think about that. But also other things. Your skin could go to burn victims. And what I'm about to tell you is a true story. Since I've been preaching about organ donation, I have met 2 people who were both born blind. In their 20s, they received a corneal transplant in their eyes, and they now have perfect vision. It's not just a blues cliche. You could literally bring eyesight to the blind. Right now, there's 120,000 people on the waiting list in the United States, and every month we lose between 1,500 and 2,000 of them. Now that, you don't hear about that on the news. Too bad. So do something good, sign up, be an organ donor, and when you sign up, tell them Walt sent you. Now I want to introduce the brothers up here to you one time. Over there on the far end on the keyboard is badass self himself. That's Teddy Zigzag. Come on now. Over here, the best bass player I know. Give it up for Mr. Johnny Graparik. Back here on the drums, he's been holding it down for 11 years with his band, Mr. Michael Leisure. Hold on, Teddy. Hold on. And sitting in with us, how about it for young Anthony Grisham?
Funky, funky, funky biscuit. Give it up for the legend himself, Mr. Walter Trout. Right there.
Angel feather in my pocket, gonna take me far away. Got an angel feather in my pocket, take me to my grave. It's gonna take me to my grave. Take me to my grave. Take me to my grave.
it, everybody. Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to getting back to it. As you said about the lessons, the kids and I are all going to language school here, learning Danish, and they're learning it much quicker than I am. I'm finding at age 70, there's a lot of memorization to learning a language, and memory doesn't work so well anymore. Like words that I knew last week, I don't remember by next week. But I'm going through it, and I'm actually enjoying it. We watch some Danish television, and every once in a while, I even understand what they're saying.
Well, that's great. To develop even a passive vocabulary in a second language is something that I've barely achieved. So I'm admiring of you in yet another way. Marie, as a writer, what has this been like? Because you are constantly writing and creating on your own, and this is the place you go to create and write, but not with a full family there.
That's true. Yeah. I think in some ways I have really enjoyed stepping away from some of that stuff and immersing myself in family life, being out in nature, baking, doing some of the things that are possible. And also I realized how much time we've spent apart, Walter and I, in our relationship. And when you are together for 2 weeks and then apart for a month, together for 2 months and apart for whatever, a month and a half, and it's that cycle all the time, the continuity is not there. So I have really enjoyed sinking into planning meals, being together, planning walks, planning things, and also, of course, spent a lot of energy on trying to anticipate when to, as Walter's manager, bring him back on the road, do these things. So I want to tell you, as a writer, this has actually in some ways been a very welcome change. I am not missing it right now. It's almost as if the inspiration has gone into just nurturing family life, nurturing just the here and now. And it's really nice.
And you know what? Any woman who has been able to put up with me 24 hours a day for the last year, way to go.
She says with a knowing laugh.
Years, but like she says, in those 31 years, I was always touring. I was always gone for 8 months out of the year,
Yeah, it's been
interesting, I'm sure.
But it's also, of course, I miss the energy. I think part of my inspiration comes from that energy of being engaged, being active, being out there, seeing life unfold, not just with the sourdough and the dunes, but among other people, getting inspiration from watching what's going on, being in that dynamic. And so since that's gone, my inspiration is also kind of not there to write, to be engaged on that level of creation. And I've seen sort of the opposite with you. You've been very engaged in creating and songwriting and that sort of thing.
Well, it keeps me in touch with what it is I do. I actually have found it enjoyable sometimes I get in the car and I drive around in the national park in this beautiful nature, and I listen to my records, and it keeps me like, yeah, that's what I do. I did that. It might seem like another lifetime, but that's really been great for me. And then I'll come home and sit down and maybe try to write a couple of songs, but I find that very nurturing and sort of relaxing, because we're in this beautiful nature up here. We're surrounded with national park and farmlands and forests, and you can drive. I can drive sometimes for 40 minutes on these little roads and not see any other car. It's very relaxing, and I got my music blasting, and I'm watching cows and birds, and beeping my horn at crows and watching them take off, and it's that kind of keeps me going. But I do, at night, when the rest of the family passes out and goes to bed, I sit in the back room where I have a little amplifier, and I go at the guitar for a couple of hours every night, every day. And I'm not playing in public, but right now my chops are at their peak,
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because we've also had the opportunity to speak to all three of your sons, and each one of them said the exact same thing, that they love to get in their car and put on an album and drive around and get inspired and just take in the late night scenery and listen to music. So there must be something genetic there.
I think so. And, we're so far out here in the dunes that, for instance, I had to go to the dentist, and the dentist was an hour and 45-minute drive, but I loved it. I put the music on, I cruised, and that's really where our good doctors are, and stores and stuff. And it's a relaxing place to live here, which is completely a whole different approach to life than living in Los Angeles,
But there could be something about that movement that you're talking about, Audrey, and that they all mention. The movement that actually I also mentioned, the energy of being engaged and being out among people that is inspiring creatively. So there is something to that. I think when you get too comfortable in certain ways, inspiration also can dry up. There's a part of us that is inspired when we have to push through things and deal with various kinds of things we encounter, whether it's just traffic lights or crows on the road, or it's other people and things like that. I think that is something we need as humans in order to be creative and to inspire.
Yeah, and when we're here and I'm looking out at the dunes and out at the North Sea, the sand dunes in the North Sea is our backyard here. And the big project of the day is Dylan and Marie are going to make some sourdough bread. And that's exciting, and that's the excitement. So that when I'm in the car and I go and I put on some of my music, sometimes I'm like, goodness gracious, I've done 29 albums. I've got like 200 and 300 songs, and I'm like, wow, did I do this? Is this real? It seems far away now, but it does keep me in touch with who I am.
And since you've had such a dramatic change of scenery and you've had enough time to be there and acclimate yourself to all of the changes in cultural stuff that's in Denmark, do you find that your creative muses have sort of shifted as well?
Maybe a little. I am really right now inspired to write. I find everything that everybody says to me, I hear it as a line of lyric. Somebody says something to me and my brain immediately processes that. And now what rhymes with that? How can I fit that in, you know? And so I haven't got any finished, but I have a Danish cell phone with a little recorder on it. Right now I've got, I think, 450 song ideas on there. And so something will happen with some of them sometime.
Well, they have to.
Well, do we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's what's going on. I turned 70 a couple of weeks ago, and we were here in our little house, and Dylan said, "Hey, Dad, come in my room for a second." And I went in, and on his computer screen, there was a Zoom call happening, and it was Marie. It was my entire band. It was my crew, my road crew. It was my record producer, Eric Korn, and it was the president and owner of Pro Vogue Mascot Records, Ed Van Ziel. And they informed me that Marie and Ed Van Ziel had put together as my 70th birthday present that she has negotiated a new record contract with him, and it's all done. And Eric Korn and the band have gone out in Los Angeles and found a great studio for us to do it. And that at the end of April, they're flying me to LA, and in May, I'm making a record. So it was handed to me, you know, so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like made my ear.
That was really something else, you know.
Wow. When you write, do you speak into a recorder? Do you like write on napkins or in a notebook? Do you have a dedicated place that you put this stuff, or is it just everywhere?
All of the above. Mainly, I have a little recorder on my Danish cell phone, but a lot of times, like if it's 4 a.m. and 4 lines of lyric pop into my head, I just as soon write it down as turn on a phone and have to, you know, and do all that stuff.
Let me tell you, we find some interesting notes.
I would imagine. Yeah. Yes.
Uncensored.
My books, you know, who knows where it's written down. Yeah.
Are you guys like a note writing family? Do you like leave notes for each other everywhere?
We have a whiteboard. So.
Yeah. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
And Marie, have you had the opportunity to introduce your family to any new or unique Danish recipes that maybe they hadn't had before?
Well, so Danish cooking traditionally is very sort of meat and potatoes. There's open-faced sandwiches. It's a limited palate, I think, for somebody who's lived in LA for so many years, right? So the Danes have also discovered all kinds of cooking. So Danish cooking has really become very international. And so Dylan and I have together joined this weird quest for discovering different kinds of flavors from different kinds of cuisines. So right now we're on an Asian kick, and we did a tonkatsu ramen soup yesterday from scratch, you know, pig trotters and the whole thing. I'm sorry.
Incredible.
Jesse, you know, it was this whole 12-hour cooking deal, and then we made our own noodles from scratch with a pasta maker where we're grinding and winding, and it's very fun, you know. So right now it's the Asian cuisine that is most prevalent, but we have been on a whole long kick of Italian cooking and you know.
And they've really become a cooking team. There is a ritual that happens here, and they cook. They work all day, and they cook these gourmet, huge meals you'd get in a 5-star restaurant.
Oh, thank you.
And then, when the meal is done, Dylan and Marie retreat to the TV room. I do all the cleanup, I actually love it. I love cleaning the dishes and the pots and pans, and I get this kitchen like a hospital kitchen, you know. And while I'm doing that, they are watching cooking videos and coming up with recipes for the next night. And they make all this amazing. I've never eaten so well.
Well, you both look healthy.
And it's something to do, and it's that's the big doings of the day. They're gonna cook, Dad's gonna clean, and then I go in the back, and then the cooking videos turn off, and on comes a movie, or the three of us binged The Sopranos, all 86
Ooh.
episodes.
And of course, that's where the Italian cooking kick came
There,
in,
yeah.
too, you know.
Yeah.
With ziti, and you know.
Yeah, they actually, for my birthday, they made me the same ziti that they have in The Sopranos, because there's a Sopranos cookbook, believe it or
wow.
not. 2 days ago, we tried to start Marie on Breaking Bad, and
It takes a while to get into that one.
the second episode where they're trying to dissolve the body in the bathtub, and it falls through. She said, "Okay, I've had enough." So I think that was probably it.
Oh, it gets better, I promise.
Maybe I'll stick it out. Maybe I'll stick
It takes
out.
about 8 episodes of that, I think, before you're...
Because talking about it, I can feel my
Oh,
stomach.
well, then
kind
we
of
will
move.
change the subject. What do you think? Yeah, that's not a good sauce to have. What do you think, Jess?
I don't know. I was going to ask, with all this cooking activity, are you blending traditions here? I mean, is there Asian cuisine or something like that? That instead of Pan Asian?
Yeah, I think so. There are lots of Danish restaurateurs or chefs have embraced some fusion, ideas, things like that. We don't, though. I mean, we're really just trying to learn, for instance, the flavors of India, Indian cuisine. How do you treat the spices? Because that's a whole science to itself with pre-sauteing or burning the spices a little bit, or not burning them, but roasting them so they develop, knowing how to blend them. It's an enormous process to learn these different cuisines and try to understand what goes into them. And I find some of particularly the Southeast Asian or the Asian cuisine, they're so old, they're so sophisticated with the blending of spices and flavors compared to the sort of more, peasant cooking of other cuisines, like the traditional Danish cuisine is more based in, what is available with potatoes and bread and that sort of thing, right? So I find there's a lot of learning about other cultures in this. I would love to study with Dylan a little more of African cuisine, because that's a whole different flavor profile, and just try to understand, how they are put it together. And then, then we can use that when we just go freestyle and try different inspiration, from different places and put it together. So I think that's where my creativity has gone right now. It really is. And it's a lot of fun.
It's very interesting, because we've talked with both of you about creativity in the past. And I was intrigued by something, Marie, that you said a little while ago in terms of creating in a quiet environment versus frenetic. Now, for your writing, you were able to absorb the frenetic environment, all the stimulation and interaction, and then remove yourself to this very quiet place for the opportunity to write and to be able to reflect on it. And I know, Walter, you've written in these frenetic environments, like the scene in LA, although in peaceful places as well. How is the creative process affected by the removal of this extraordinary amount of stimuli, and then going into this longer period of being there, but knowing that you're returning to the stimuli, because this isn't going to be forever? It's a period of time. How does that affect each of you?
It is different. for instance, I've got all these song ideas. I've got pages and pages, notebooks full of lyrics that I think are really good, and I have something to say. Even at my old age, I think I still have something to say. And but I know, and this is one of the things I told her when all this came up, is to really put this thing together, I've got to go back to Huntington Beach. I've got to be in that house alone. I've got to come out into the kitchen, sit down, and there's nobody around, and I can put this thing together in a week.
It's great to be back here. Now, we have a brand new album. It came out a little over 2 weeks ago. It debuted on the Billboard Blues charts at #1 and stayed there for 2 weeks. I took a lot of old, forgotten blues songs and resurrected them. This song is by Jimmy Dawkins. He wrote it. I think he summed up the whole essence of the blues in this song. It's called Me, My Guitar, and the Blues. I don't worry about tomorrow. I know that every day stands on its own. I don't worry about tomorrow. Lord, I know that every day stands on its own. Tomorrow will still be here, and we could all be dead and gone. And I don't worry about you, baby. Baby, I don't worry about you no more, no more. I don't worry about you, girl. I don't worry about you no more. No. No. But now that you don't love me no more, I believe it's time for me to go. I know it's time for me to go. I got to leave you, girl. Yes, I do. So I don't worry no more, babe, because I know I have paid my dues. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't worry about you, babe. I know that I have paid my dues. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've paid my dues. But now that you don't love me, it's just me, my guitar, and the blues. It's me and my guitar and the blues. I
got to leave you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Boy, that song screws me up, man. I gotta gather myself here. Gotta come back to earth.
The energy outside doesn't affect me as much as I do better really in solitude to actually get it from where it is, where I got 450 song ideas and a book full of lyrics, till I start focusing in and I start really assembling it, which is really the most crucial part of this. And I've got to be in a really weird emotional zone to do that. And that sort of requires solitude. For instance, there's somebody who's house sitting for us right now, been there the whole time since we've been gone. Great guy. But I'm not sure yet if I'm probably going to ask him to split before I come back, so I can be there completely alone.
Yeah. Well, I realized that one of the great ingredients to the creativity around that kitchen table in Huntington Beach is the espresso machine.
Well, that I look forward to getting back to.
That's part of it. Yeah. Well,
And
it's interesting.
5 or 6 of those, and it's easy for me to get emotional and cry like a baby too. Is that then my hand shakes so much I can't write the lyrics. I literally have pages of lyrics from the last album that I wrote at home.
You can't read it.
So it's, I can't read them. don't know what they say.
Oh no.
You know.
Yeah, Jesse will do that to you.
Something very brilliant contained there.
Yeah. Goodness
Well,
knows.
how about for you, Marie? How does the juxtaposition of this immersion in very stimulating environments versus solitude affect your creativity?
I think Walter is describing it well, actually, the thing of assimilating when you're out there in the frenetic energy of it, and then sort of putting it together in solitude. It's more of an internal process. But both, it's yin and yang of creativity, I think. But you asked something interesting, I think, how is it to view this process and then have to get back to the energy of it? And I can sometimes think to myself, you know, we used to travel all over the world, all the time. Get on planes, I used to have one meeting here, go there, be with somebody for an event over here, see Walter there, go home. I mean, it was very active, very all over the place existence. And it didn't faze me at all. And the other day I was going to a doctor's appointment, as Walter says, an hour and a half away. And I was thinking to myself, my goodness, I'm going far away from home. You know, that sense of how am I going to even do this, you know? So it's an interesting reality check of how am I going to get back to that life of sleeping in hotels and being out and meeting with people. I think it's like riding a bike. I think we get back to it. Of course, we get back to it because we love it and it's what we do and we can't wait. But there's also an interesting process that is happening of being away from it and looking at it. As Walter said, did I used to do that? You know, it's that.
That thing, did I used to do that?
Yeah.
I have a lot of moments where I think back and I go, I wonder if I'm still able to do that. I wonder if I'm still going to be able to get on a big stage with my band and lead the band and talk to the crowd and feel at home and actually invite the audience in to experience this thing with me and with the band and to create this bond that I used to do with the crowd. And I wonder if I'm still able, and I will go through lots of self-doubt. You know, there's a few songs on my last album about self-doubt, and I do go through that a lot. And that's where, when I get into that, I don't know if I can do that anymore. Riding around and listening to my albums helps. You know?
Well, I mean, what do you expect when you get up on that stage in front of your fans and even people who haven't heard you play before? I mean, what is your expectation from the crowd? How do you think they're going to react to you after so long?
Well, I think if they're my hardcore fans, they're going to be happy to see me, and I'm going to be happy to see them. But I can't quite imagine that moment, you know. But then I think back to when I was at Royal Albert Hall and I had not been on a stage in 2 years. And Marie brought me out at Royal Albert Hall. You know, that's talk about ordeal by fire. That's not playing at the local pub after 2 years. And I walked out there and I counted to 4 and those guys came in behind me. And I was like, I'm at home. I know how to do this. This is where I live. But I didn't have that feeling until that band came in and it started.
And do you feel like, and Jesse and I were talking about this the other day, is that all of the anticipatory anxiety, all of the feelings of, you know, that go from dread to excitement prior to stepping out onto the stage, but just like you said, once, you know, it started, you were at home, you were in church, it was exactly where you were supposed to be at that very moment. And I'm imagining when you step out onto the stage and you start to play, that all of that pent up energy is just, it's going to be like this magnificent explosion of artistic creativity and emotion. And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic experience for you and Marie and the band. My goodness.
I can tell you one thing. Marie arranged that last week, myself and 2 members of Blindstone and our kid Biscuit we were going to make a video, 2 different videos. One was for the local council around here, and they're going to do this kind of fundraiser thing to help businesses who have suffered through this. And they asked me to record a song. And then one is for the promoter in the Czech Republic, where Maria's had to keep moving the gigs. And the guy asked her, will you get Walter to record a song and I'll put it out there? And Walter to say, hey, we are going to be back. I don't know when. So we went to the local music school and we set up. And it was the first time I was able to play my brand new, beautiful Delaney signature model Walter Trout guitar through one of my Mesa Boogie amplifiers. My sound man in England shipped me the amplifier. And what you said, what this explosion, when I listen to what we did, I think I'm playing horribly, because I got up and started playing and I put a year of pent up stuff. All of a sudden, there's my guitar, there's my amp, and we did 2 songs. And everything that the critics have hated about me for years is there in mass. You want too many notes, you got it. You want just completely out of control, tasteless, that's what I did. But my God,
I bet. Woo!
I got
yeah.
off. And
climactic.
There was a music critic at the LA Times a few decades ago who wrote that Walter had a supercharged musical metabolism.
Oh, man.
And that was a full display.
That is beautiful.
It was glorious.
And I thought I was playing great. And then when I listened back to it, I was like, God, I can't listen to this guy. Tell this guy to relax just a little, would you? You know?
Oh, I bet there's a musical catharsis, though, that this is all pent up. And, you know, the first thing out of the gate is going to be very different than what comes behind, but probably is going to have some beautiful thoughtfulness and expression that didn't exist before. What can we look forward to on this album that you're going to record? This is very intriguing that you're coming back to record something new. What's the direction this time?
Well, I can tell you, I went over and over and over in my head. What do I do? Do I do another sort of version of Survivor Blues, but write more blues tunes myself and do a lot of shuffles and play blues guitar? Do I write songs? Because the last album, there's a lot of songs on there. You know, I was not trying to fit into any mold. And then I thought, you know, I need to worry about this and about that and think about the career and think about this. And then I was driving along with my music playing, and I had this epiphany that, hey, you know, you're 70 now. I don't know how long I have, and I'm going to make a statement. And I'm not going to worry about this person thinks you should do this or maybe you should do that. I'm going to make a statement. And if songs come out sounding like Gregorian chants, so be it. You know,
that's unlikely.
It's unlikely, but do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And, you know, this is what we're all talking about. We've talked, Marie, you and I also about this, that being your authentic self and being able to present who and what you are without worrying about a mask, without worrying filtering it, without worrying about an agenda. That's a beautiful thing to live to achieve.
Yeah. I mean, I do love playing a 12-bar shuffle. I love it. That's what I set out to do when I was 14. I wanted to be Mike Bloomfield. I wanted to just play that, but then I decided, well, I really like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and I really like Joni Mitchell, and I really like Little Richard, and I really like Julian Bream, and I really like Herb Ellis, and I really like Duke Ellington, and I love Bob Dylan. There's all this. I mean, that's still my main influence, probably musically, in my whole life. Just talking about him, really affects me, and
it affects us all deeply. And Walter, what you bring to the table, influenced by Dylan, is quite beautiful.
And I was talking with my friend Danny Bryant the other night. We were talking about because he's going to make a new record at the same time. And I said, I've been listening to a lot of Bob Dylan's latest album, and it's his 50th album or something, and it's almost career defining after all these years. And I said, and the more I listen, the weaker I feel, the more impotent I feel trying to write lyrics. And Danny said, man, you just have to be yourself, write how you write, and
Well, on that note, I think Dylan really said it well, quoting Whitman, I contain multitudes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's it. And I think that's, to me, no matter what style you write in, the blues is always right there, because that is such a well of tradition and respect in you.
Yeah.
And it is always right there. But then you take it in these other places because you contain multitudes.
Yeah.
That's it, and it all has to have a place in that expression, to be that honesty, to be that authentic voice. Otherwise it becomes mimicry or, formulaic. It has to have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said to me, Walter, go out in your car and listen to your song, The Bottom of the River, and don't feel bad about your lyrics. And that helped me a lot,
It's what you're doing that counts, and each of us can take these inspirations. There's always going to be someone who's been able to walk faster, climb higher, or do whatever, but if it helps us lift ourselves to a higher place, and you're lifting your fans to a higher place, that's what it's all about, and it's quite a beautiful thing. You also are up for Blues Music Award nominations this year, for which we owe you great congratulations, and especially the Song of the Year is a very special nomination for you because of its story.
Well, that was also written by my wife here, and really written along with and inspired by another BMA nominee, Miss Teenie Tucker. And the story of that song is, we were in Memphis it was at the IBCs. We were there for the IBCs, and we were walking down Beale Street, and here came Teenie, and we know her, and she's a dear friend. And Teenie, how have you been? And she told us that her son had recently passed on, and we both said, oh, we're so sorry to hear that. And she said, my heart is crying, but my eyes are dry because I'm all out of tears. And I just, is that something you read, or is that a poem, or is that in a song? Or she said, no, I'm just telling you how I feel. And I said, well, maybe, how about we do something with that, because that's such a beautiful, potent, really iconic phrase. My heart is crying, my eyes are dry. I'm cried out, And so we did that song. And I have to give a lot of credit here again to Mrs. Trout, because the album was finished. Ordinary Madness was done. And Marie said, no, you've got to record that song and put it on the record. And I'm like, well, then this means we got to rent the studio. We got to go in and set up all the stuff. We got to get the band back together. We got to go through all this. The album, she said, no, whatever you got to do, go record that song and put it on there. So we gathered the band, we gathered this record producer, we booked the studio. We went in there and it took us about 2 hours. I showed the band the song, and 2 hours later we had it. And it seems like the song has, there's a lot of people have sent us messages that the song means a lot to them, and it has expressed how they feel about losing a loved one, and it has kind of helped them. And that's really, a message like that means more than any kind of award or any kind of review. If somebody says, I lost someone dear to me and your song has helped me deal with it, that's what it's about, you know.
Yeah, and I think also for Teenie, you know, to have her experience of losing Boston, her son, become, you know, an entity outside of her that can help others has also been a meaningful part of that. And a credit to her late son, you know, a tribute to him. And that's certainly how we intended it as well.
Yeah.
You know, when we can bond together in a common experience, you know, that's sometimes what these hard, horrible experiences that we all go through in life are about, that we find a community and a togetherness with others in that horrible place.
It's a highly relatable song, highly relatable topic. I can't imagine that there isn't a single person, adult at least, that hasn't experienced that sort of gutting pain. And Marie wrote a beautiful song, absolutely beautiful song.
Yeah, and I mean, the band, I have to say, those guys, that band I have is just remarkable. And literally, I walked in there with this tune, and 2 hours later, everybody went home. It was just kind of an instantaneous thing. I said, we're going to do these verses, then we're going to kind of jam on the end. And boom, there it was, you know.
And that says a lot right there, too.
Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a delight, as it always is, to talk to you, and thank you for bringing us in with this great news of the new album and the recording sessions that are coming up. We all look at spring as a hopeful time, and you've just given us some more things to hope for as we look forward to seeing you in person this year.
Look forward to seeing you.
Oh, I can't wait. Hugs. Like, can we do hugs too? Like, that would be like...
We can do that.
Embrace.
Love you.
We love you
you
guys.
too. Thanks for having us back on your show too.
Love you both. Bye. Be good.
Here we go. Hey everybody, this is Walter Trout here, and you are listening to Blues Radio International right here.